Am I on? All right. Well, good morning. It's really good to be here, and thanks for believing in me that I could share with you guys. Pastor Rick asked me to speak back in November about on Ephesians 6 and spiritual warfare, and since he asked me, it has been a serious battle to speak on this subject. It was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to prepare a sermon on, I think, that in all time. And I went backpacking a few weeks after he asked me to speak and just went up in the mountains by myself to pray and think about it, and it was really intense. It was definitely, the last few months have definitely been an attack on just my worthiness to be able to speak about this subject, and just past mistakes and things that I've done, and not living up to the high standards of God, which is what I felt like I should be speaking on tonight. And so I really think that the Lord has an awesome message for us today. I'm saying that out of faith. I'm extremely nervous and quite scared to be up here right now. But I would like us to turn to Ephesians chapter 6, verses 11 through 12. And we don't have any PowerPoint. We're going old school today, so no videos or anything. Verses 11 through 12. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. I listened to Chad's sermon on YouTube on Friday, and that was really good. That was an awesome sermon. And I was immediately more scared to speak after hearing about it, because as I've been preparing since November, I was pretty much going to say what Chad said. And I had to completely revamp and rewrite my sermon. So I guess it's cool, that the Lord was going to have that spoken to us one way or another. Chad really focused on the armor of God, and just putting on the suit, the robot, and pushing the buttons, and God works through us in His power. And I really want to focus on just how we need to defend each other and be disciplined in our relationships and in our personal lives, in how we interact with each other, in how we pray for each other. We really need to be on the offensive when it comes to our relationships and not wait for something to build and build and build, and pretty soon there's something wrong, and we're divided. It's difficult to communicate the things that we're feeling inside because we negate them, or we think it's not a big deal, or why am I feeling this way, or whatever. But it's really important that we are communicating with each other, and it's extremely important that we recognize the fact that we aren't battling against each other. For almost any physical problem when it comes to relationships, like complaining, gossip, bitterness, unforgiveness, just offenses, it almost always has a spiritual catalyst. And it's because maybe we aren't thankful for the job we have. We're not thankful that, we're not relying on God as our provider, so we're complaining about the job that we have, and we're living in this kind of this state of ungratefulness, really, and that affects every part of our life. If you're complaining, then that's going to grow up inside of you, and it's going to affect every relationship in your life. If you have unforgiveness towards a person in your life, a lot of times that's just pride, and that's a spiritual thing that you got to get over. As I read Ephesians, I reread it a bunch of times trying to figure out how to go about this, and it really hit me that the book of Ephesians, the progression of it, it starts out with talking about who we were before we knew Christ, how we were dead in our sin, how we were living deceived, basically. We were dead. And how when we know Jesus, we are made alive, we are risen, Baptism is the perfect symbol of that, which is so cool while it's happening next week, right? And how we're risen with Christ. And then after that, really deep stuff about who we are, explaining, like teaching us that this is how you view yourself now. You're no longer that person, you are this person. Then it tells you how you're supposed to live and the standard at which we're supposed to live at. And the standard is, it's a high standard. It's not normal, you know? It's not what this world would call normal. And the hard part for us is the fact that we live in the physical world, but we also live in the spiritual realm. We act in the spiritual realm. And we have to constantly have our minds in those two places. That bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. Now, it's hard for us to recognize the things in our life that are keeping us from bearing fruit, or are just not good things in our life, are kind of just bad fruit. We don't like to look at it. It's uncomfortable, and the fact is that we have an excuse for everything about the way we are. You know, I'm just a passionate person. I get angry easy. You know, it's okay that you get angry, but it's not okay that you're lashing out at everybody. You know, it's not okay. I'm just a very sensitive, soft-spirited person, so I just get offended easily. No, you can't get offended easily. You know, we're a family here. We need to be communicative. You know, my excuse is, you know, I'm just really laid back. I don't like to make plans, so if I don't show up, you know, whatever. No, that's not cool, you know? So we really need to have somebody in our life, and not just a friend, but we also need friends, somebody that's on our level, a peer, who can speak into our life and tell us what's going on. You know, Stephen, you really need to start showing up to things that you said you were going to show up to. You know, or whoever, you know, you really need to work on your anger problem, or you really need to start drinking less. But even more important than that is we really need someone in our life who is a grade or two above us, who we can talk to, who they can pour into our lives, and we can be accountable to. In August, Scott Ridout had called me up and said he wanted to have breakfast with me, and I was like, thank God. And I talked to Abby about it right before, and I was like, I'm going to ask him if I can meet every week. And we got together, and he's like, Stephen, I just really want to meet every week with you. And I was like, this is awesome, you know? So cool. And it's been life-changing. It's when you have someone who you are totally honest with about your failures, about the things that are major temptations in your life, and who can speak life into you, who has been through that, who has made it through, and is still a mighty man of God, then you are going to grow because you're challenging yourself. You know, it's not comfortable to challenge ourselves. It really stinks, you know. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And when you're sharpening something, you're grinding off pieces of that metal, you know. And we need to be open and to the idea of being completely open to each other. And I think that that's easier for girls to do